Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. I'm just out in the patch this weekend. I've got a lot of work I need to do in preparation for spring. Just started my spring seedlings and I need to start preparing the beds for those plantings, especially my tomatoes, which I am planting in about 4 weeks time. I'm over here in the location that I've selected, which is the old cauliflower patch. I've been harvesting this bed progressively and I need to start clearing out the last of the cauliflowers and prepare this bed with amendments, compost and the like, just to get it ready for that planting in mid-August. So this is the old cauliflower patch. Now I've been harvesting this progressively over the last 2 weeks and there's a few stragglers left over which I will harvest today. Now I do like planting my tomatoes in this spot. It is the spot that gets the most sun out of the whole garden, and in summer this is a spot where I find that my tomatoes won't overshadow the rest of the patch. North is in that direction, and I find that by planting my taller plants such as tomatoes in this location, it makes best use of the light, but also allows the rest of the smaller plants that I will be planting at the front here not to be shaded out by those tomatoes. I will be preparing this bed first, but what I'm going to be doing is actually removing a lot of this spent vegetation, and I'll be adding my amendments, and I'll let that settle in for about a month until I'll plant in about 4 weeks. But in the meanwhile I will be planting out some Pak Choi seedlings just to make use of the space. First things first, I'm going to come through and just pull out these last of these plants, remove this irrigation, and I'll start turning over this bed. Just going to harvest whatever veggies are still okay, and there's a few cauliflower heads that are still decent. They're not the overly large, but still happy to take whatever I can get. Probably 1 or 2 heads still left over, and I'll just make use of those. Before I plant out any vegetables in my patch, I always like to turn over the bed. I have looked at the potential of using a no dig, but for my context I find my garden works better in the dig. This is the way my dad taught me how to grow, but also I just find it better in my context because it allows me to add my amendments to the soil, and also allows me to, just freshen up that soil, remove all those weeds, any rocks and any other plants, and actually come through and level the bed, especially after where I'm stepping on these beds are a lot. I'm just using my shovel and just going to shovel deep. I'm not going too deep in the ground, but I find that the soil is a lot more airy when I've done that, and it works well. And yeah, it keeps I find keeps pests under control, although I've had a big slug problem in the past. I will be digging this over. It'll probably take me the best of an hour to finish off the rest of this bed, so I'm going to get back onto it, and then I'll show you what amendments I put on. So I just finished turning over that bed and I've broken it all down and somewhat made it level. But that's done now. Glad it's done. Took a while for me actually. Need to add some organic material to the bed. Now, generally speaking, I will add, manures, chicken manure, cow manure. But in my case today, I want to go and add some more of my homemade compost. I've had this sit here for about 6 months now. Now, unfortunately, it's got a bit waterlogged. But I'm going to start clearing this because I actually do want to make some more compost for the summer planting season. So this is my compost pile, and this pile was built about 6 months ago, and this is a mix of horse manure, chicken manure, chicken run and waste from the chickens, and coffee grounds, and just going through. It's actually really live. I just saw some worms go through. There you go, heaps of worms in there. It's broken down really well. I'm really happy with how it looks. It's a bit waterlogged. I should have put a tarp over it when I was letting it cure, but it is what it is. I'm actually going to move a lot of this soil compost and put it on the beds. I'm going to start with this front row of the north face, of the west facing bed. I do want to clear this because I do have a lot more compostable material that I want to compost and make for use later in summer. So I'm going to take two barrel loads. I'm going to take 2 barrel loads of compost and lay it over that bed, and then I'll go spread it out. In terms of additional amendments to this bed, I'm going to add some chicken manure pellets. I'm looking at adding 2 container loads full. I don't like, generally speaking, adding too much nitrogen to tomatoes. You end up just spending the whole time pruning, but in their early stages of growth, they do need some nitrogen to put on a bit of size. So I'm going to add 2 container loads of chicken manure onto this bed. In addition to that, I'm going to add a small amount of dolomite lime and sulfide of potash. The dolomite lime is there purely to help add that calcium and help with any potential bottom bedrock issues. Also to sweeten the compost, and the potash, tomatoes love it. Potash is quite immobile, so it's good to be able to dig it into the soil. I will add some potash, more potash later as they start to flower, and I'll add that as a side dressing. But for now, I'll just add this in the ground. It's good to add this, especially the dolomite lime. It's good to add it now and give it that 3 weeks to dissolve into the soil. It just takes a bit more time to do that, and it's good to get that in the ground early before you plant your tomatoes. And to finish off, what I'm doing now is just going to dig the soil into that top 5-10 centimeters just to mix that compost and amendments in. And it's just using the hoe, just lightly digging in that compost into the soil, paying attention to making sure that I come back and just straighten out the bed as I go along. So I finished mixing in those amendments and compost, and I've just sort of raked the bed just to really just level it out, and that's now ready for tomatoes. I have in the meanwhile started a whole bunch of Pak Choi, which I like to plant out in those spaces of the bed where I know that I've got 3 or 4 weeks gap. This will be a great crop to plant in this spot, and the issue is that the seedlings are still just a little small, so I'm going to wait 3 or 4 days before I plant these out. But I've got 7 punnets to plant, and I'm actually going to plant them in this front section, probably to see if I can take up most of the bed, but definitely in the front section. Yeah, they've got 4 weeks for them to produce, and as the weather starts warming up and the full sun's position we have here, these will be big enough to harvest before I'm ready to plant my tomatoes. And I find it's a good idea. It might take out a bit of that extra nutrients that I've put in there, because tomatoes do like it. I find not too nitrogen heavy, so having the Pak Choi just to work through that dynamic lifter that I've added might be good. Oh, so happy that's done. Just a bit puffed out, but I've got a few other things in the patch I need to do today, so I'll continue through that. I'm having an early start this morning. There's a lot of things I need to do in the patch today, but what I want to be doing first is harvesting that Pak Choi that I showed everyone in the last video. I like to harvest it way before the sun hits the leaves. I find that it does store a lot better. So I'm over here. This is my planting of cabbages, and I'd planted interplanted all this Pak Choi in between. It's ready to go now. It's starting to outcompete the cabbages, and that's not the plan. It's not the idea behind this plan. The idea was to get that extra crop out of the same space. The variety of choy I'm harvesting here is called Joe Choy, and it's the white stemmed variety. And I planted these about 3 weeks ago in this spot, and the idea for me and my planting here is that I like to maximize production in my patch. So any spot I can plant out fast growing seedlings, radish, choy, anything like that, I will plant them in between my main crops. In this case, I plant them between my cabbages. In my context, I generally like to harvest my choy at that smaller size. That's how my family like to use them. You can let them grow up a lot larger, and they do get quite big, but for my context, this is the best size. What I do is when I'm processing them, I just take off the ripple and those outer leaves, but they're not going to waste, they're going to the chickens. And then that's it. These will then be put into the container of water just to get that heat of the sun off them. Now it's still quite cool at the moment, so they're not wilting, but if you are harvesting later in the day, it's really important to get them onto cool water just to take the heat off the leaves. I find that really makes them last longer in the fridge. So I just finished harvesting that choy, and as you can see, the cabbages have a lot more space now to grow. This is my final haul. It's just been soaking a little bit in the water. I want to go and give them just a light clean, just to get most of that excess dirt off it. I'm not going to clean them thoroughly. I'll just make sure, just try to get as much of that dirt, as you can see, just inside in between the leaves. Let them drip dry, and then before we use them, we'll give them a proper clean. I'll take the leaves apart, give them a proper clean. So I'm going to go just hose them off and then let them drip dry and then take them indoors. So just finished harvesting those Pak Choys, and Mum and Dad have come past just to visit, and Mum's asked if I've got any cabbages ready to go. So I'm going to come over here and harvest my first cabbage this season. I'm going to probably give her a green cabbage, but I'll just show you what they look like at the moment and pick out the biggest one. Over at my cabbage patch, this is my green cabbage, 3 rows, 27 plants in total, and I've got my red cabbage. I believe there are 16 plants in total there. This variety is green coronet, planted out in early March. I think it was about 26th of March actually, so late March. Really good looking heads, really nice size. They've filled out all pretty well. Trying to decide which one's best to go. Probably I'm in an iron, maybe that one is the one I'll be harvesting for Mum, but I will be trying to harvest these once a week. I'll probably take one in for dinner myself, but I'll probably leave it out here at the moment. Got plenty of red cabbage too that's really coming along, and I will start harvesting them too. But yeah, just coming across the whole patch, it's actually looking quite good. Different sizes. I find that as we go back to the back of the patch, they tend to be a lot smaller. I think it's because they get a lot less sun in the back of the garden. Gonna get this one today, and I'll show you what it looks like once I've harvested it. What I'm going to do here is just cut the base out of the, there you go, yeah, beautiful. I'm going to clean that up and I'll show you the final result. These other leaves. There you go. Oh, I'll leave these two on the outside, but that's my final harvest. Probably in an order of 1.5 to 2 kilos, so really good. I've still got heaps to go through, so I need to start harvesting them, and I'll definitely will bring a few more to the folks, and they'll make cabbage rolls, stuffed cabbage rolls out of them, but also make cabbage salads and the like, so they'll get used up, and I'm hoping to use these all up by about mid-September, so I can start planting my cucumbers and more tomatoes in that space. And before I wrap up this video, I just want to introduce you to my dad. He's over here. He's come over here today and he's just working through my olive tree at the moment. He's just doing a bit of pruning. This man's the inspiration behind all the work I do in my patch, although I never really had an interest in gardening as a kid. Just having dad at the garden, him pottering around the garden when we were kids really inspires me to work in my own patch and feed my kids produce from the garden. So this is my dad. Dad, can you say hello? He's camera shy, but thanks Dad for helping us out. He's come over today and actually just been pruning, working on my olive tree. I'm not sure if I'm going to get much of a crop off it this year. Dad's thinking it's getting a bit high, and he's really struggling with the fact that we've got these conifers on the right hand side. But Dad's been doing a lot of work around the patch, just clearing up the grasses around the base. And also then, while he's done that, he's come around critiquing me and my lack of weeding and just general maintenance of my garden. But it's good to have him around. I'm really glad he comes along and helps me out where he can. I would just wish he would say a few more things to the camera, but he's not interested. Look, thanks a lot everyone for joining me in this video. I really appreciate your support, and I hope to see you in the next one.